Hello, welcome to the St. Louis College of Pharmacy and to this virtual lecture on exam proctoring. We are so delighted that you are joining us to work with us on this very important part of what we do in keeping the classroom integrity intact. And we hope that you enjoy your time on campus and interacting with our student pharmacists. This is going to be a brief overview of the expectations and responsibilities around proctoring in our courses. We in the School of Pharmacy have courses that are team taught and courses that are taught by one instructor. Regardless of the course, our class sizes necessitate having multiple proctors in the room for any kind of assessment, whether it be a quiz or exam or a large group learning activity. And so we do appreciate your assistance in helping us to do this in the best possible way. So just to start with a high level, what is the purpose of exam proctoring? So I think it's important to acknowledge that the purpose is not to police the room or the student pharmacists that are taking an exam or the assessments, but really to minimize the attractiveness of making a bad decision. So to create an environment where academic integrity is an easy choice, to make it clear that there are people around when a student needs assistance or help. And so I think walking in with that viewpoint and purpose will be really important. We don't want the students to feel overly policed or that we have a high level of suspicion about their behavior. Rather, we want to just feel responsible for making the environment such that they would want to make good choices about academic integrity. So about our student pharmacists, students in the pharmacy school have completed undergraduate coursework and are in a professional degree program. So these are adults. They have, several years of college under their belt. Many of them already have a degree under their belt or are working on finalizing their bachelor's degree in some cases. And so I think the environment that we want in these assessments is one of warmth, but also appropriate rigor. So we want the students to feel welcomed, and so we want to, smile at them and create a warm environment. They're probably walking into these assessments under a lot of stress and pretty stressed out, so we definitely don't want to add to that with an overly stern, approach or facial expression, etc. We want to support them getting through this rigorous academic program with academic integrity. So some specifics. In general, we will ask that you arrive 15 to 30 minutes prior to the exam or other assessment start time. And that is for a couple of reasons. One, to ensure that we have enough help at the beginning of the exam, because there are some preparation activities that happen in the first 5 or 10 minutes prior to an exam. But also to allow time for the course coordinator faculty member to give specific instructions about that exam to all proctors at the same time. We will provide you with a specific location. Our campus is not extra large, but it's important that you're familiar with the campus map in order to make sure that you do arrive on time for those instructions to be handed out and for the preparation to be possible. Once you get there, you'll get these specific instructions verbally, sometimes in writing as well. It's not overly complicated, but the proctoring instructions will likely vary a little bit from one course to the next and based upon the type of assessment that you're involved with. Some examples of the preparation that occur prior to an assessment start are seating charts. Sometimes seating charts are posted outside of the room where the students will enter, and you may be asked to help place those on the wall or put those up prior to the students walking in. You may be asked to help project those on the screen, and of course someone would help you with the technology part of things to make sure that students can see where they're supposed to sit upon entry. You will likely be asked to check ID badges. Our students are asked to make their ID badges visible during assessments so that you can identify for sure that the person in the picture is the person who's taken the exam of that name. We also may ask that you check the ID badge against the seating chart to make sure that people are sitting in their assigned seats. We also may ask that you check the seating chart and ID badge to identify students who are absent. So by looking at a seating chart and then looking at ID badges and, for open seats, you might be able to identify who isn't present in the room, and that might be asked of you so that we can identify, who isn't taking the exam during the allotted time. We always ask that students leave their personal belongings to the sides of the room, the back of the room, the front of the room, so that they don't have the temptation of their notes or their cell phone or anything like that within reach. And so we will ask for you to help us enforce those things at the beginning of an exam to be making sure that the students, follow through on that rule. We'll also be asking that during the exam you help us to ensure that this is enforced as well. If an assessment requires a student use a calculator, we most often use assigned calculators from our calculator supply at the College of Pharmacy. Our calculators have numbers on them that correlate with an assigned seat, and so we may ask for your assistance in distributing calculators to students based upon their assigned seats. Most of our exams are delivered via computer. There may be some paper components to the exams, but the large majority take their exams on their own computer that they have through the college. So the students will bring their own computer, open those up in class, and then we will ask them to use a program that we use, a software program called Lockdown Browser. Essentially, Lockdown Browser prohibits the student from leaving the electronic exam to look at notes saved on their computer or to go to a website, etc. So Lockdown Browser is pretty universally used. You don't have to be well versed in Lockdown Browser, just understand that the students should be and that they should understand what it means to enter into an assessment via Lockdown Browser. Most of our assessments will require a password for entry into the exam, and so the faculty course coordinator will be providing students with a password at the very beginning of the exam in order to allow them to gain entry to the exam. There is also something called an exit password. So there are instances where students need to exit the exam for legitimate reasons and then re-enter the exam. Those situations will require an exit password, and as a proctor, you will be trained to use an exit password to assist a student with exiting and re-entry of an exam. That is beyond the scope of this introductory training session, and so that will be covered by a faculty course coordinator or an administrative assistant at the St. Louis College of Pharmacy upon your first participation in a proctoring assignment. If there is a student having that technical difficulty that requires a proctor exit, that will be part of your expectation. So you will be trained on that when you come to campus for the first time. And that will be likely the majority of what you do actually when you answer students' questions or when students have their hands raised. So it's just some general stuff about proctoring that is important. It is important that you walk around the room. Standing in any one location or sitting during the exam is not an adequate proctoring role. So we ask that you walk around and you really keep your eyes peeled. So you're looking at computer screens, you're looking at student papers to ensure that what they have in front of them and they're working on appears to be legitimately the correct stuff. You're probably going to, as you walk around the room, identify that students forgot to put their things to the side of the room or that they forgot to put their cell phone, that sort of thing. So that will be strictly enforced, and we ask that you help with enforcing that rule. And really beyond that, as you're walking around and you're looking at students, we want to be as non-intrusive as possible. So we quietly walk around, we minimize our side conversations and chatter with other proctors during the exam. If there are loud students out in the hallway, part of the proctoring role will be to close the door to the room to ensure that it's quiet for the students taking the assessment. And really, you just kind of want to identify if anybody's behavior seems out of the ordinary. So if a student is looking around the room a lot, if they're looking at another student's paper or screen, if a student seems to be shifting around in their seat a lot, or if they're looking at something that would otherwise be considered legitimate, like a calculator or water bottle for an ordinary amount of time, those kind of things you just want to kind of keep your eyes out. And if you notice something a little bit strange, mention it to the faculty coordinator that you're working with, and they can kind of determine the best course of action in those scenarios. It is inevitable that in our classroom of 100 plus students, there are going to be student questions. The course coordinators for each course will have their own specific policies around answering questions, and they should announce those at the beginning of the exam. And that'll be to the benefit of the students, student pharmacists, and also for your benefit. If a student raises their hand during the assessment, this will happen, undoubtedly. You should go to them and see what they need. They could be reporting a computer issue, pointing out a typographical error in the exam, or needing a restroom break, something along those lines. In general, questions about content on the exam are not answered. So if the student is asking you to interpret a question or to define a word, those are things that I would inquire about with the course coordinator prior to making any attempt to answer or not answer. If, however, a student is bringing up a computer issue, like their computer froze, it won't let them type, it won't let their mouse work, that is often when you would be using this exit password process. And so, again, learning to do that on your first time as a proctor will be really important. There are some issues, though, that we can't address with simply an exit password process, and we will need to call IT. And so the faculty course coordinator will be making those judgments and calling IT when necessary. If the student points out what they believe to be an error on the exam, those are things you're going to bring to the attention of the course coordinator and let them know. If a student needs a restroom break, our typical policy is that same gender proctor will accompany them out of the classroom and into the bathroom. Of course, you don't have to go into a stall with a student pharmacist. The point of this is that there have been situations in the past where students had notes in the bathroom that they went in to reference. And so just making sure that they are legitimately using the restroom and escorting them there is our typical process. Of course, if you do escort a student pharmacist out of the classroom for a bathroom break, you want to let the course coordinator know that you are doing that so that they don't kind of look up and wonder where you are and where the student is. At the conclusion of exams, you may be asked to give students a verbal countdown. So some students with difficulty seeing the clock might need a 10-minute, 5-minute, etc. warning. But please do ask your course coordinator, faculty member, if they would like for you to participate in that before doing so. This computerized exam process that we use via lockdown browser, students will need to essentially provide evidence that they have completed the exam and clicked the submit button before they leave the room. This is to ensure that students don't leave the room with the exam still open and then continue the exam outside of the room while referencing their notes or talking with their classmates. And so there is a submission screen that students must show you prior to exiting the room. And so on your first proctoring assignment, you'll need to have a little bit of training to be able to recognize what screen the students should be showing you on their exit. But that is typically part of the exam conclusion. It tends to be a very busy time for proctors, and so will be an important part of your role. If there was any paper component to the exam, whether it was scratch paper or actual paper exam, that will need to be turned in with the exam with the student's name on it, and you will likely be assisting with that. And there may be other course-specific exit procedures. For example, some of our courses will require students to show their ID badge and sign out of the exam. But that isn't every course. And so work with your faculty course coordinator to identify any course-specific exit procedures. That concludes this very brief introductory session on the proctoring role. I hope that you enjoy your time on campus interacting with our faculty and our student pharmacists, and that this is a rewarding role for you. And thank you so much for your contribution, important contribution to our courses.